Great. All right, well, let's get started. I feel like we've got a couple of minutes past the hour. All right, I just want to say thank you everybody for joining. My name is Carrie Lang. I am from National Flood Services. I'm the Agency Development Coordinator. We are happy to have Denise on the call with us today. She is from Vero Beach, Florida, and she has going to be sharing with us her experience as a floodplain coordinator. Everyone's all muted, so I think everybody knows the drill by now, but if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box, and we will let Denise go ahead.
Great. Well, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here today and give you guys a little experience on flood insurance, what us flood insurance or insurance agents should tell their customers. So again, my name is Denise Boehning. I am the owner of Coastal Wide LLC. In addition to selling flood insurance, I also provide, I am a CRS coordinator and floodplain administrator for small and medium-sized communities all over the state of Florida. I am a certified floodplain manager and an associate in the National Flood Insurance Program, and I try and help agents, realtors, and anybody else in the public to navigate the NFIP program and help them with flood insurance questions, especially the more difficult ones. I am going under the assumption you all know what a CFM or an ANFI is. So I'm not going to go into that explanation, but if you don't, just let me know. You have my email address. It's denise@coastalwide.com. You can ask me any question you want. The little thing, planetbureau.com, that's a little quote unquote, I call it side hustle I do, is I have a radio show program where I talk about the floods of hazards. And it's a weekly program where I talk about any natural disaster that could affect our state of Florida, from floods to hurricanes, tornadoes, oil spills. I talk about man-made disasters, from pandemics to cybercrime and human trafficking, and we talk about not only the hazard but also to how to keep everybody safe. So that's enough about me. So today I want to talk about three things. The first one is I want to talk about what agents should know when talking flood to first-time home buyers, anybody who's moving from up north down south, to figure out what they should know, things, pitfalls they could fall into potentially, because we know a lot of times clients come and they go shop around for quotes and they'll come to you, and flood is an important part of it. We're going to touch on elevation certificates, and then we will talk a little bit about map changes. So first things first, flood zones. You have now a buyer that comes into your office and he's looking to purchase a particular home. And they come to your office because they're looking for a quote, because they're trying to figure out their budget, and they are potentially getting a loan from a bank, and they want to make sure that between the loan and the insurance, they can make it all work. My question is, do you automatically ask them whether they want, need, will carry flood insurance? Do you already at that time, when you're looking at the at their property, see if they're in a special flood hazard or not? What the first thing I usually do is I go onto the Map Service Center. I put right there, you have the URL address. All you need to do is type in the address of that particular property, and it will tell you on the map whether or not the property is in a special flood hazard area. I'm assuming everybody knows what a special flood hazard area is. For those who don't, just in case, I apologize if it sounds very basic, but a special flood hazard area is defined as an area having the 1% chance of being inundated by flood waters in any given year. Therefore, we always have that misuse of the 100-year floodplain. Floods have an equal chance of submerging areas every year for 5 straight years, or not for 200 years. We don't know. There is simple a 1% statistical possibility that every year homes could be flooded. And there's a 26% chance of a home suffering from flood damage over a normal 30-year loan. So it's always very important for everybody to make sure before they quote homeowners insurance, make sure you know what flood zone they're in, because it has happened to me where a client comes in, had a quote, I forgot about the flood insurance. They went to their lender to get a mortgage loan and were told you're in a special flood hazard area and you need flood insurance. That, you know, it's a great service for your client. Now, when you do, the next thing is for which can occur is flood zone discrepancies. It happens a lot where you get a client saying, or from wherever they get the information from, saying that they are in zone X, and the lender says, no, you are in a zone AE, which is the special flood hazard area. So what do? Who's right? Are you right? Is the lender right? We don't, let's figure it out. So that can happen, has happened, and I'm sure will continue to happen. So oftentimes what happens is, let's say you determine that the structure that you're looking to insure is in zone X. The lender comes back and says, no, it's in zone AE. The lender usually, when they do the loan, they get their standard flood hazard determination form that they get electronically, usually through either CoreLogic or any of the other online tools that they have. So what may happen is sometimes the addresses don't match. So you want to make sure that the address, and not just the physical written address, but the address as it appears on the maps match. There's sometimes a discrepancy there. It has happened where Google will put the property in a certain address while the actual address or the structure is somewhere else on the map. So you have to make sure that those two match 100%. That could be a problem because, for example, your home, let's say you live on 505 53rd Square, is in zone AE, does not necessarily mean that the property or the structure right next door to you is also in AE. They might be in a different flood zone. So that's why the maps become so important. Another reason why there could be a flood zone discrepancy is there might be a letter of map revision that has been done, and maybe the lender didn't pick it up. That is also on the FEMA Map Service Center, the URL address I gave you earlier. You can find if a letter of map revision was done, and that could be a reason for a flood zone determination discrepancy. Next, claims. Claims stay with the property. So, and that's a biggie because that can really derail your flood insurance premium. If there was any flood claim on a property in the past, it will stay with the property. It will not stay with the owner. So you could have potentially a repetitive loss or severe repetitive loss property and maybe not know it. So do you all know what a repetitive loss or severe repetitive loss property is? Again, for the benefit of those who may not know, a repetitive loss is any property that has had 2 or more claims of more than $1,000 that was paid within a 10-year rolling period. A severe repetitive loss property is a property that has had 4 or more separate claim payments of more than $5,000 each, or 2 or more separate claim payments, building payments only, where the total of the payments exceed the current market value of the property. So in those cases, flood insurance is still available, but the premium will be a lot higher. So unfortunately, nowadays, it's very, very difficult to find out the claims payments on a property because of the privacy issues. So in the past, you could have called the building department and they'd be able to give you the address. Nowadays, you can call the building department. They might be able to give you a mapped area of where there is a repetitive loss or severe repetitive loss properties. They won't be able to pinpoint which one, but if you're a little savvy, you can, with the maps, you can figure it out. Otherwise, your insurance carrier or FEMA would be able to give you some of the information. Again, with privacy issues, there's always a concern of that. And of course, the prior owner, I would hope. But that's very important. You always have to remember, claims stay with the property. Next is, there's a couple things you should always, as an insurance agent, tell your clients when they're looking for insurance for homeowners insurance. Number one, everybody is at risk of flooding. Everybody knows we live in Florida. We are surrounded by water. And other countries like Denmark, for example, only has 24 inches of rain on average per year, while here in Florida, we see 54 inches of rain. So when you have people coming saying, it's no big deal, Denmark doesn't flood. Well, we have a lot of rain events. And as you guys have seen over the last, year, our rain events are increasing. We're getting a lot more rain. So remind your clients that everybody's at the risk of flooding. Homeowners insurance does not cover flood insurance. 1 inch of water can cost $25,000 of damage to your home. Some people say, I don't live on the beach, I don't have to worry, especially those who are coming from up north, not really understanding the topography of Florida. Well, just because you live on the beach does not necessarily mean you're automatically in a special flood hazard area. As a matter of fact, in where I live in Indian River County, there's homes on the beach that are in zone X, while homes that are 10 miles more inland are in a special flood hazard area or in an AE zone. So, the maps will tell you that. Another big one that people will tell you is, I don't need flood insurance, FEMA will bail me out anyway. I get that a lot. I'm sure you guys are I assume all of you are insurance agents. You guys hear that a lot too. FEMA does not bail you out. You need to let your clients know that the maximum, first of all, there is small grants and loans available for losses and repairs, and it's only up to, I think the max is $33,000 for a household. However, to be eligible for such a loan or grant, the president would have to declare it a disaster. So even if the president declares it to a disaster and now you are potentially eligible for a loan, remember, it's a loan, you have to repay it. Number two, disaster assistance. Let's say you are eligible for disaster assistance. If we look back at 2017, the average flood insurance disaster assistance provided was $4,339. That's not a lot of money. And I don't know any of your clients who could tell you that they can rebuild their house for $4,000. Again, for those who don't want flood insurance and refuse it, make sure you kind of inform them about the risk that they take. And, you know, some people are perfectly willing to take the risk, but at least you informed them and you educated them and they know better. Another myth or another homeowners conversation you may have is clients will come into your office and say, I can't get flood insurance because my house had a prior flood claim. I've heard that quite a bit, and that's not true. Regardless of how many claims you've had, there's always flood insurance available. However, flood insurance through the NFIP is not available for buildings located in system units or in OPA, which is other protected areas, which is established under the Coastal Barrier Resource System. And what I did here is I took a little image of the FEMA maps, and if you see the lines through there, that is what they call the COBRA zone. And flood insurance is not available for those areas. And it's not because they want to, because of the risk. Rather, it is for the purposes of minimizing the loss of human life, wasteful expenses of the federal revenues, and damage to fish, wildlife, and other natural resources. We try to maintain our natural resources and keep everything beautiful, and most importantly, keep our lives safe, human safety. Now, you have a client. He is in a special flood hazard area and now needs an elevation certificate. The previous owner may not have one or lost it. The new buyer doesn't know where to get one, has no idea. First thing what you can do is, if for whatever reason the previous owner doesn't have one, or this has happened to me, doesn't want to give you one, and say, well, I'll give it to you, but I'm selling you this elevation certificate to you for $200. You say, no, thank you, we'll have other ways. What you can do is, especially the newer homes, the building department has an elevation certificate of, on file for all new construction, all homes that are in special flood hazard areas. If it's an older home, let's say that's built like pre-fir in the 60s or 70s, I'm not so sure, but certainly for the more recent construction, they will all have an elevation certificate. It's free, doesn't cost you anything. Some of the building departments even have it downloadable on their websites, so you can find it. If for whatever reason there is no elevation certificate, the building department doesn't have one, the prior owner doesn't have one, and they really didn't have one, then you can order one from a surveyor, and obviously the potential buyer would have to pay for it. And usually, depending on where you're located, I know in our county, usually a surveyor charges about $250. But I here the elevation certificate on there because it's very important to know what it looks like, and also for your clients to see what it looks like. A lot of times they may end up giving you a survey or something because they don't know what an elevation certificate is. Why do you need the elevation certificate? The elevation certificate is necessary because that is what the insurance carrier needs to uses for rating the policies. And I just kind of highlighted here, I hope you can see it on the slide, the most important part on that elevation certificate. You have your community name, the county, state, map panel number, the firm index date, the revised date, the flood zones. B8 and B9 is very important because sometimes you can be in 2 flood zones. And then below that, you have the feet for the top of bottom floor, top of the next higher flow, and so forth. All those figures are used to properly rate the home for flood insurance. And the issue is, if you don't have an elevation certificate, the rating, the premium will be a lot higher than when you use the elevation certificate. So you can definitely save money on the premium. And on top of that, the EC can also be used to see for floodplain managers, for example, to see if we can mitigate against higher premiums by maybe suggesting putting flood vents in the garage, or maybe they're eligible for a letter of map revision, and that means they can get reclassified out of the AE zone or a special flood hazard area into an X zone. And that's always good to know. Next thing is map changes. We have the flood insurance rate maps. Sometimes they get changed. Here in Indian River County, that's where I live, we currently have preliminary maps. They haven't come out yet. We don't know when they're coming out, but new maps will create changes for certain homes. For example, let's say your home is remapped. You were previously in a zone X and your client had a preferred risk policy, paid, let's say, $482 a year in flood insurance for their home. A new map comes out and they're told you're now in zone AE and your rate is $700 a year. Of course, your client is not going to be too happy, and the first phone call they're going to make is to you. So what do? Well, there are definite ways. One of them is because you have had prior flood insurance. First of all, you're grandfathered. You can enjoy that lower rate for at least a year, if not more, that depends. Because if your home, because your home was built in compliance, it was in compliance with the construction as was set forth in the prior firm maps, flood insurance rate map. So now that has changed. They can still use that same rate, and then only every year it will increase until it becomes a true risk rate. Same thing is if you have continuous coverage. If you always had coverage, you can get grandfathered for maintaining continuous coverage, and you will not use that grandfathering. However, the moment you cancel your policy, that you will lose that grandfathering. And you don't want that. So let's assume we have another story here. You have a client, he had flood insurance policy. His house was grandfathered. He enjoyed the lower premium. Now he's selling his house, and there's a new owner. Well, this new owner wants to get flood insurance. And because if he were to get a new flood insurance policy and the prior owner cancels that policy, the new owner is no longer grandfathered. He will not be in compliance with continuous coverage, and he will have to pay the true risk rate. So what do? You can assign that policy from the previous owner to the new owner so that the new owner can continue being grandfathered under that clause and still get the lower premium. And that can save a lot of money sometimes. In summary, tips to remember is 1, know your flood zone. Claims follow the property always, and you can assign a grandfather policy to a new owner or a new structure. So do you have any questions? And if you do or want to discuss something, by all means, shoot me an email. You see my email address down below, and I'd love to hear from you. It was great.
Thank you so much for presenting. That was awesome. We had we have a couple conversations in the chat box. Samantha's asking, I thought that you could use the current owner's deck to show proof of grandfathering and write a new policy for buyers. A lot of sellers do not want to sign their policy over.
That's true. You can. Yes. Yeah, I do believe you can do that. I've only had one issue with a commercial property where we had the grandfathering, and the previous owner had no problem assigning that policy. It was mid-year, so they kind of figured out the dollar and cents on their own. So.
Great. And yeah, we just had some good conversation about elevation certificates and how sometimes they could be hard to find. I know you touched on that.
Yeah.
And then Samantha actually also wrote the Carolinas are very hard to get information. A lot of records have been destroyed, but some surveyors keep impeccable records, which is something I
Yes.
probably wouldn't think of. So
yes, sometimes what
that.
I do, yes, that's a very good point. The surveyors keep great records, and I've done that before where I actually called up the surveyor and asked if they had an elevation certificate, and 9 times out of 10, they'll just shoot me the email, the electronic format. Sometimes some surveyors will charge you 25 or 50 bucks, but you know, it's if there's none to be found and you can get in with a surveyor, oh, you can work it.
that was going to be my next question. Do they typically charge, or will they just send it over? I totally get that if they're trying to make money and they have it.
Yeah.
25 is better than
It
200.
depends on the surveyor, yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah, these are all great. I personally like talking and learning more about elevation certificates. I like to say I'm fairly new to the flood industry as well. So this is all very valuable information for me. Does anyone else have any questions for Denise? Again, we will send out this the deck, and her recorded webinar will be on our National Flood Services website, and I'll put that in the chat box. But we will have her information out to you if anyone feels that they come up with a question.
Great. Thank you so much.
Oh, Denise, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come here and share what you put together for us. Thank you. We really, really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Anytime.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks too. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.